One of the most celebrated and also the most controversial athletes in track and field history has to be Flojo. Florence Griffin Joyner, one of the most popular runners, not just because of her athletic abilities, but also because of the fashion she brought to track and field. Honestly, I wish somebody was bringing that fashion back like she was, because let me tell you, she was putting that thing on. She never went out to race just looking plain. She was always stylish, whether it's her hair, her nails, the different outfits. I loved it all. But people tend to talk about other things besides how she dressed. They also talked about her times. And if you don't know, Flojo is the world record holder in the 100 meters and the 200 meters. I have to note that sadly, we're talking about somebody who's passed away. May she rest in peace, someone who did all she needed to do. But hey, everything that she did on the track is still being spoke about, whether it's people criticizing or people celebrating it. But regardless, any way you cut it, she is the fastest woman to ever run the 100 or the 200. It's been challenged over the last couple of years with a few people throwing their name into the hat, thinking that they could break the record, but who knows? It still hasn't been broken and it's still going. But the same conversations are being held, and that's something I want to talk about today. Is her times legit? That's what everybody else want to talk about. Are the times legit? There's a couple of cases that people made, and the most important case that people always talk about is our progression. Because people like to see a progression in a specific way. If you're getting faster, they want you to get faster like you're going up a mountain, right? And you're going up a mountain, and it's not usually like that. That's one thing I want to point out. People don't usually always go up and then you hit your peak and then you just go down. A lot of times that mountain has valleys. It has peaks and it has valleys. So you go, you get faster, get a little slower, get faster, you go down. And sometimes you figure an event out depending on the coach. Naturally, the biggest criticism is going to be drugs. On the official record, she's never failed a drug test, right? That's her biggest case. But a lot of people say, hey, back in those days, drug tests just weren't efficient, which is fair. A lot of the world records from back then aren't legitimate. That's just plain straight. Without being able to tell for sure, there's no way you can just say, hey, they're definitely doping. But you can make an educated guess. I mean, most of the world records, especially in those events that she ran, were not legitimate, but we can't say she didn't. So a lot of people look at her progression. I actually got it pulled up right here in our last races leading up to the 100-meter world record. I'm going to start with her. She started at 10.9. So she ran 10.99, 10.91, 10.89, 10.88, 10.70, that was windy. Another 10.70, that was legal. 10.62, 10.61, 10.60, that was windy. 10.54, that was windy. And then finally, the world record at 0.0 wind with 10.49. Now, that's what everybody has to ask. The wind was crazy. I will say I have to listen to the criticism when it comes to the wind, because if you do watch the race, when you watch the race, you can actually see flags moving. So it's crazy to see that in the actual video, and then you come back and look and they're saying there was no wind. There was obviously some wind. It should have been a little wind recorded. So a lot of people might think that even if she did run that time, it's possible it was a little bit more windy than it got recorded. But who knows, right? All we're left with right now is criticism of what may have happened, what may not have happened. We don't know. But right now, all we have is these times in front of us that we can use to judge statistically. I will say that from the standpoint of, if your only argument is that she could not have ran this time because it just didn't add up, I don't agree with those criticisms, because somebody could come this year and run a completely different time next year. Yes, there can be arguments about people doping, which is the main topic of conversations nowadays, but you can't just say she was doping for sure just because she got better. There's a lot of ways that people could get better. Another question is that she did come from a time of where doping was just rampant, which I might argue that doping is rampant today. Even though technology has gotten better, dopers have gotten smarter also in being able to avoid these doping allegations or these doping questions. We recently saw a marathon runner, world record holder, being caught. So a lot of people question, would Flojo have been caught if she was there in modern days? We've seen that they're doing doping biographies now, where they're taking somebody's blood and just testing it over years as technology gotten better. Would Flojo have failed this eventually? We don't know. All we're left with now is speculations. But was the time real? Did the times happen? For right now, we have to say, yeah, it did happen. Yes, it's real. Will it be broken? Probably. It will be eventually. Is there somebody running right now that could? I don't know. You let me know down in the comments. Is there anybody running right now that could break Flojo's 100 and 200 meters record? We know that 200 meters was up for grabs recently, but it seems a little bit safe right now. But what do you think? Do you think it could go back to being threatened? Let me know in the comments.